Hi, I'm Sean Hill, host of the NiceJob Podcast. Welcome to the NiceJob YouTube channel. Before we get started, I want to invite you to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you can always tell when new content is coming your way. Now that we got that out of the way, let's dive into the NiceJob Podcast. We're doing things a little bit differently in Season 3. Here on YouTube, we are going to feature highlights of our conversations. The conversation in full will be available on our audio-only channels. You can find the NiceJob Podcast on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Google Podcast, Buzzsprout, or wherever you download fine podcasts. And the NiceJob Podcast is brought to you by NiceJob, reputation marketing software that'll help you grow your reputation and grow your business. You also can get the free Engage widget with a 14-day free trial of NiceJob by going to get.nicejob.com/podcast offer. So whether you've watched the past 50 episodes or joining us for the very first time, I'm glad that you're here. All right, let's see who our guest is today on the NiceJob Podcast.
Hi, I'm Seth Donlin, and today let's learn how to better and more confidently connect with your audience.
I'm so happy to have my guest join me today, Seth Donlin, who is the founder and head coach at Awin Coaching. But Seth, I know someone just can't be summed up in one particular title, so I'd love to learn a little bit more about you before we dive into our topic today. Whenever someone gets into coaching, consulting, or helping others, there's always that drive I find within them that kind of goes above just getting it for themselves and kind of helping others. When did you kind of discover that you didn't want to just have some knowledge all to yourself, that you really wanted to explore and help other people?
Yeah, the super short answer to that is, I launched the coaching business about 18 months ago. I've been working in communications for at this point, more than 20 years. And my first business as an entrepreneur was actually, I partnered up with a number of other people to start a weekly newspaper. And we were luckily successful in that. We grew it to the largest weekly newspaper in that metro area, a major U.S. city, and then sold it to a publishing group. And one of the things that was, the only way we were able to be successful is we used a lot of intern labor and hired a lot of people directly out of college for very, very little money. And part of the kind of understanding was that they were getting to cut their teeth, and they were getting the mentorship from, those of us that were a little bit older and had a little bit more experience. And so, that's where I first really started working as kind of a coach and a mentor, and I got a real liking for it. I went on to do many other things in my career. I always enjoyed working with my younger colleagues and helping bring people along. And I eventually got to the point where I realized I started mentoring some people just recently because I wanted to give back. A couple of years ago, I took on a new mentee, and she's a real hotshot, but it surprised me some of the simple things that she just didn't know. And I was like, why aren't they teaching this? So I thought, hey, I'm going to launch a coaching business and help these people. And as it evolved, it turned out that I got into working with more service professionals rather than kids recently out of college. But that was kind of the genesis of my coaching business.
From what I've generally, researched about yourself is you kind of take a good approach to both elements. And before we kind of dive into, the pure social elements, maybe some of the tactical things, just from the mental side of things, why is it important that as a business owner or even as a leader, maybe with your team, to have a deeper connection with the community around you?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people don't. A lot of it starts with the fact that most service professionals are experts in some way. Okay, so I'm an expert in communication. A plumber is an expert in plumbing, and a personal trainer is an expert in, physical fitness training, right? And people like that tend to get really focused on their craft, on the thing that they know really well, and they make the assumption that because they're being hired for their knowledge and their expertise, that in marketing themselves, it's that knowledge and expertise that the client or the potential client is really going to be interested in. And ultimately, that doesn't often end up being the case, because most people end up making their decisions based upon some emotional connection that they feel to the business, to the individual that is the face of the business or the face at that particular moment. And so the reality is, you end up hiring the personal trainer that you really just click with and that you get to like. And if they happen to have like 3 or even 10 years less experience than the next guy or gal, that doesn't really bother you. And, I think most people, if they call a plumber or they call an electrician and they've heard that the business has been around for a while, they assume that you have all of the requisite knowledge and all the requisite experience, and they assume that you're going to do the good job. Now, why are they going to choose between plumber A and plumber B? It's probably going to be some emotional connection or some personal thing, and be like, oh, well, the kid who I coached at at Little League, his uncle works for that company, so I'm going to hire that company, or something like that. It ends up not really being based on skill or expertise.
The one thing you touched on, which I found very interesting, is they're expecting the expertise. And a lot of things we hear from home service professionals about their social media is they like to kind of share their expertise. They want to be able to kind of put out there. They want to position their brand, as the experts. But there's this fear of I don't want to be, condescending, or I don't want to seem like the know-it-all, because that's kind of an emotional track that might push someone the other way. And so we talk about kind of building relationships. So how would you, offer to someone or almost suggest to someone maybe a building block to help them find the tone when it comes to social media? Now, every business is different and every sort of goal is, but just if kind of that open-ended high level, how do I find the right way to at least begin conversations or begin posting on social media? Because I see some brands that are sassy, and that's not me. And I see some brands that look like they're just boring automation, and that's not me. I want to figure out how to take the personality that I actually have as a human and bring it out through my business on social media. What sort of strategies or tips or even first thought processes should come to their head?
The first one is just the courage to be yourself, the courage to do it, and to realize that, it doesn't matter if you're introverted and you've always been shy and you're convinced that nobody's going to, if I get up there and try to be myself, I've got to be like the guy who's got the monkey and wearing the cowboy hat and going, come on down and we're going to, no, you don't. You can be yourself, because there are people that hate the monkey in the cowboy hat, right? And they want a different thing. And one of the nice things about being yourself is having the courage to truly be yourself, is that, you know what? You absolutely are going to turn people off. And that's great, because ultimately those aren't the people that you want to be working with. Somebody that isn't really going to like you and that you feel you have to act a certain way around and is not going to have a friendly and a truly connected relationship with you. Those are the people that, let me start that over. If you have that friendly and truly connected relationship with people, those are the people that are going to be evangelists for you, are going to recommend you to their friends. Those are the people that are going to quite quickly call you back, rather than go, can I fix it myself? Or can I don't want to have to call this person because I don't want to spend money that I don't have to, or spend money on them or something like that, right? Now the flip side is that if you don't have that connection with them, right, then they're not going to do those things for you, and they're ultimately going to be maybe that one-time customer, or that customer that only calls you in the direst of emergencies, rather than that good customer that maybe they could do it themselves, but they're like, you know what? That's a hassle for me. I'm happy to just pay her to do it for me. I'm happy to just pay him to do it for me, right? And so you really do want to push away those people that are not the right fit for you, and that in turn draws in the people that are the right fit.
Is it oversimplifying it to almost phrase it as, obviously you don't want to offend or push away anybody, but don't get too caught up in almost trying to please or pitch to everybody? Because your core is what's really going to build that fan base, you know, as you kind of put that thing. So maybe it's like, hey, don't try to please everybody, but you know, you don't go to the other end of the spectrum. Is that oversimplifying it, or is that in the long run really where the core is? If you're identifying who you are and presenting that out and not worried about trying to please everybody, you're probably going to collect more.
Correct. And you know, for me, I tend to, a lot of my clients are personal trainers, sports coaches, health and fitness coaches. And, you know, that's a broad, you know what I mean? There's a ton of people that are looking for those services, but there's a big difference between what a postmenopausal woman is looking for and like a 21-year-old man or woman is looking for, right? There's a big difference between what the stay-at-home mom is looking for and what the working mom is looking for. There's a big, you know, these are huge differences. If you try to market to everybody, none of them are going to be interested in you because you're not going to be able to be speaking to any of them in, you know, at what their real core concerns are. It would be like if you were, you know, you decided you were going to open a restaurant, you're a chef and you're like, I'm going to open up a restaurant, and you start talking to your close friends and they say, oh, great, what kind of food are you going to serve? And well, I'm just going to serve food, you know? I mean, like, I'm a chef, I can make anything. Like, if you want it, you come in, you ask me for it, I'll make it for you. It's like, no, that restaurant is going to fold in a hot minute, right? Like, you have to be an Italian restaurant or a steakhouse or whatever. But the Italian restaurant is not crying over all the steakhouse business that it's losing, and the steakhouse isn't crying about all the Italian restaurant business that it's losing. They're not playing in the same arena there, even though the larger arena is the arena of, you know, being a restaurateur.
Yeah, as we always talk about in reputation marketing, is that if it is just kind of sunshine and rainbows, there's the realness, the connection, as you mentioned, it starts to kind of trail off. And so it's not necessarily you have to share your biggest fail, but I think people would appreciate the journeys, the difficult. And I love something that sometimes we see, you know, really business owners, all types, is that separation from my business and my personal. But there's probably ways that you can integrate some without having to reveal too much of the personal, but to talk about some of the difficulty that you might have had, you know, initial challenges in your business, you know, connecting with your team. I'm slipping on the business example, and if I'm able to remember for the edit there, I'll put a link on it below, but it was a great post I saw on Instagram where they talked about having to, you know, let someone go that had been on their team for a while. And it wasn't kind of like airing the dirty laundry or things like that, but what they kind of said was, you know, over the next little stretch, things are going to seem different because this person's gone. And we want to make this upfront and transparent because our goal is not to, you know, miss a phone call or something like that. But in order to continue to set the bar we're setting, we had to make some changes. We've had to make some difficult decisions. And so we're hoping you kind of ride along with us as we, you know, made this change to kind of continue forth. And I love that example because it kind of touched on what you said of it wasn't talking about their service. It was talking about them, the people, which is behind it, which that with emotional connection, it's two parts, the service you're performing
Right.
and the people doing that as well. We also talked about a little bit of, you know, that post particular is on Instagram, total thing. Do you think that the different social media platforms should have different voices, should have different tones? It's a question we often get of, you know, should all my things look general? We like to suggest that don't make the same post everywhere because then there's no reason to follow you on multiple platforms. But,
Right.
you know, do you think that there's a personality within platforms themselves?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I certainly do. I think that the platforms draw different audiences, and so you need to cater your, you know, you need to tailor your message to your audience. That, you know, that said, I agree with not necessarily having the same post on everything because some are just like, even for something as simple as formatting reasons, like, you know, a post that you created for Instagram isn't going to look right on LinkedIn or Facebook exactly unless you've resized it and reformatted it. And there are things that work really well. You know, right now, LinkedIn, like polls are great on LinkedIn, but Facebook got rid of their polls. And the carousel posts on LinkedIn are really great, but they don't have those on Facebook and Instagram, right? So there are certain things that you can't cross over. At the same time, I think you should, you know, there should be a voice to your business, and the voice should be fairly consistent. Now, you're not the same person with your grandmother as you are with your like best friend from high school or something like that. So it's okay to be a slightly different version of yourself on each of the platforms, but don't take it too far. I mean, I see sometimes people are like very different on the different platforms. They're like, well, this is where I'm fun and this is where I'm serious. And it's like, no, you should be fun and serious everywhere. Maybe you're a little more fun here and a little more serious over there, but like you should be your full self everywhere. You can just, you can be a little bit different in each platform and play to those platforms' natural strengths, obviously.
I guess almost the core of almost everything we said is don't treat it almost like a broadcast presentation. Treat it as a way to actually make connection and to actually, build relationships and to show a little bit of, trust and, a little bit of humanism in what, in social can be very cold and there can be a lot of facades to put up.
Well, I really think social media is not networking, all right? They are different things, but I like to think in a lot of ways as social media as sharing a lot of the same things as networking. Now, a lot of people think of networking, you go to a networking event, you've got your business cards with you, you go around and you're like, hi, Sally, I'm a communications coach. Here's my card. If you ever need communications coaching, this is what I can do for you. Nice to meet you. Hey, Bob, I'm a communications coach, right? And you just go around pitching yourself to everybody and telling them what you do, right? I mean, you probably ask, what do you do? And then you take their card, but you don't really care, and you stick it in your pocket. And
they do their pitch.
Right. But I believe, and a lot of it, I'm not the only one. A lot of people find real success with this. I go into a networking engagement like that. I don't pitch myself. I mean, I have business cards, and I'm going to tell people what I do if they ask me. But I walk up to people and I ask them, what do they do? Oh, that's very interesting. Hey, well, is there any way I can help you with that? Actually, I met somebody a little earlier. That would be you need to talk to this person. Like, I spend my whole time just trying to help that person. At the end of the interaction, those people are usually like super flattered because people love talking about themselves. They're super flattered that I just wanted to hear about them the whole time. They want to like pay me back by being like, oh, well, what is it that you do? And then it's like, well, here's who I am. Here's what I do. But look, I'm going to connect you with this person and that person, and we're going to make this work. And then, I go off to that next interaction. Well, I'm the one person or one of the very few people that didn't try to pitch them and sell them and like didn't, and actually cared about what they were doing. Now, they may not need my coaching services. They probably don't. The percentage of people in the room that might need my services is probably pretty low. But you better believe that if they ever stumble across somebody that needs those services, I'm going to be the person that they recommend because I made them feel like they were really important and I cared about them and I made it clear that I really wanted to help them. And so now they really want to help me. And I think that that's a much better way to go about your networking. And that I really recommend that people look at their social media in the same way. How can I help you? Right? What value can I bring to you? What can I do to make your day a little brighter? What's the story that I can tell you about my employee who just like got married or just, you know what I mean? Like, what's the nice little story that I can tell you? And what's the piece of knowledge that I can provide to you for free? And when you're ready and you need an electrician, you need a carpenter, you need a tax accountant, whatever, then you're going to come to me because you like me and I've been nice to you and I've been friendly and I seem like a good guy. And so why wouldn't you hire me?
Regular listeners of the Nice Job Podcast know I like to talk about the notepad parts of the episode. And that's what Seth just said there. That's the part that definitely goes in the notepad. Maybe a little underline, maybe a little circle. That was absolutely spectacular. If someone's listening to this particular podcast and they like the sound of your voice, they like what we're talking about, and they love to connect more, where should we direct them towards? What's the best way for people to either learn more about you or to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way to learn more about me, what I happen to be offering at the moment, is to go to my website, which is awencoaching.com, and I'm sure in the show notes the proper spelling of that will be there, so I won't bore you with the trying to spell it out. The other way is if you know somebody that hey, they could definitely use work like, some help like this, you can get on my calendar for a free introductory call on, my calendar link is reachseth.com. Real simple, reachseth.com, and you can hop on there and book a time to speak with me.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we'll make sure in our show description, the YouTube description, wherever you're watching or listening to this episode, we'll have some nice, simple, quick links for you there, so you can get in touch. But Seth, thank you once again for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and of course your energy here on the Nice Job Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Shauna. It was a real pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for checking out the video. Remember, you can listen to the full episode of our podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Buzzsprout, or wherever you get your podcasts. Here on YouTube, I want to invite you to subscribe by clicking right there, or you can check out 2 other videos. One, our most recent podcast, and the other to learn a little bit more about Nice Job. So click one of those things, and I can go home.